Hey everyone, it's Eva here.
It's Kyley.
Welcome back to Hello Universe.
Universe.
The last episode of this season before we go on break.
Someone's heart just dropped because they thought we were saying this was our last episode.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
You're stuck with us.
Yeah, exactly. If that day were to ever come, for what there'd be a big old fuss and hullabaloo, and you would know.
Yes, that's true. Yes, we'll both be 80 and
exactly. But we are taking a summer break, which I am really so proud of us for, and I just love that we do this.
Yeah, I feel really proud of us too. And it's a long summer break. We're taking 6 weeks off from the show, which when we first picked that time felt like it felt really long to be away from recording. And also I feel so fucking tired.
Yeah.
Not from our show at all, but just in general.
Yeah.
That the thought of like one less thing for 6 weeks actually feels like I just thought I couldn't miss it, and I will. But I also feel like, oh, good job us, because that turns out I could use.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's like I'm definitely gonna miss talking to you, and you and I have said we're definitely, we'll have some type of catch up in between where we're just gonna do our thing offline. But I don't care how much you fucking love your job, how much you love the thing that you do. I love recording, and also it's always nice to take a little break, because I think what I'm excited about is like, I'm already excited for when we start again in the fall, because like I think we're gonna have like fresh energy. I'm gonna have like missed you so much. I know that we kind of have some plans underway for changes that we want to make. So like, it's like, you can love the fuck out of your kids and your partner, and having a break is actually like sometimes like the most wonderful thing that you can do, right? So
yes, I had to go on a work trip when Desi was like 8 months old, or 6 months old. Maybe 6 months old. It was like not my first choice when he was that little. And I remember the whole time feeling like, oh, it's a nice thing to like, it is a nice feeling to miss your kid.
Yeah.
Because like it's missing someone is a beautiful, I mean, go back to our kind of grief is love, like missing something is really beautiful. And I think brings you a whole new level of like excitement and appreciation. And
yeah. And so we just both like love the summer season so much. So like,
I think both summer babies.
Yeah. So we're like, but what else did I want to say about taking a break? Oh yeah, I just really love what you said when we were like talking about how long we wanted our break to be. Because I think last year was only 4 weeks, and this week we were just like, we can do whatever the fuck we want, and that's and to take advantage of that rather than creating more rules for ourselves about like what anything is supposed to look like. I doubt anyone. I know for you listeners who listen every week, we love you, but also like we doubt anyone's gonna really care if we take 6 weeks and come back. Like we can do whatever we want, which is, so we might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, there are no rules except for the ones that you want.
Yeah.
So we love you, we will miss you, and we'll see you after this. We'll see you in the fall.
Yeah. But today we're just kind of doing a catch up, because I think we've had a slew of guest interviews, and I just want to know, like,
I know. I love how originally our show was like once a month was Kyley and Eva, and all the rest were guests. And then for this year, we were like, oh, we need to do every other week because Kyley and Eva. And that hasn't happened now for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm like all a chizzy. Everything feels out of sorts. I'm like, I need Kyley. Like, even though we have been messaging outside of Voxer, I still see it's not the same. I need my designated Kyley and Eva time.
Totes.
Yeah. Yes.
So before we do a little bit of catch up, why don't you tell the folks what you've got going on and what you're sharing now, maybe through summer?
Yeah. So, well, actually, I think the biggest thing that I want to pitch is us on other people's shows. So listeners, I think this is one thing we're excited about for when we come back in the fall, is we really want to make a concerted effort to go like be on other people's shows and bring this conversation to other places. And some of our best guests are the ones that have been recommended to us. So I feel like the inverse is probably also true. So if you have a show that you love listening to, that you think would be a good fit for either one of us, both of us, just send us a message and let us know, because I think there are so many shows out there doing amazing things.
Yeah.
We would love your help picking some.
Yeah, it's hard to know like which ones, but also like this is very fun for us. This is a joyful thing for us. And so yeah, I think we just want to focus more on what we love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the other thing I will say in my own business is come to Magic Circle. So we have July will have passed by the time you listen to this, but we have another one coming up in August. It's once a month. It's with Liz Simpson, who's been on the show now a couple of times, and myself, and it's just deep and beautiful and wild activation magic. It's different every time, and the structure is, we come together in circle, we journey, we throw lightning bolts of magic at you, and then there's always this really gorgeous time for sharing afterwards. Last Magic Circle, everyone just sat in silence for like 10 minutes when it was done.
Yeah.
And it was this really beautiful testament to like, no one needs to say anything. And also we still wanted like, because we always give people the invitation, like, you're welcome to float away. Like you don't need to stay here. You only have to stay if you'd like to. And everyone stayed, but also no one talked for a long time, which just felt like a really beautiful testament to like, I think this kind of sacredness that can happen in community, of like, and of witnessing each other and holding each other without needing to speak about it or speak to it,
and wanting to be together still,
and yeah, the desire to continue to be in community and in circle. So it's one of the most it's one of my fucking favorite things to do every month, and it's only $30 if you want to do a drop-in. So come check it out. We'd love to have you there.
Yeah, I will say, I think one of the things that's like if I, because I was pitching this last week, I think, in the intro about how you had Magic Circle, and I was like, honestly, I think the reason to go is just to be around two women who are so embodied in their magic, and that you can be in that. Like, that's because I'm like, I don't know how to explain Magic Circle. It's called Magic Circle for a reason, because that's just what it is, and you don't need to know all the details. Like, if you're, like if you're looking for something different, or if you're open to something new, it is just about being with two people and other people who are so like, you and I always talk about, sometimes the most healing experiences I've had are just to be around people who are embodying their own truth and what I know to be true. And then that really rubs off on me, because I know that I can, you know what I mean? I don't know why or how, but that is the medicine. And so I feel like that's what you and Liz often give to others in that space. And if you are craving that, then I think Magic Circle is perfect for y'all.
I think that's one of the nicest things you've ever said to me. You say a lot of really nice things to me. It's funny,
it's hard to explain, but it's easier to explain other people's stuff. I have a hard time like sharing my own things, but then I'm like, I could say, I know exactly what would be great about Magic Circle.
Thank you. Yeah, I do appreciate that. And I always feel that way. Like if I'm ever pitching, if I'm doing a solo intro and I'm giving the little promo for you, it's like my favorite part, It's funny. I actually just messaged Liz about that today, a version of that where I was like, what I'm really proud of us for, just to be self-congratulatory to each other, was like, we really live our medicine, right? Like we really like shit shows up and we're like, oh, the only way to do this is to Ragnar. Like there is, I do feel really, it feels like, well, the only way to do this is to be the thing that I believe and that I ascribe to. And so thank you for witnessing that.
Yeah, of course. That's like fucking valuable medicine, folks. Valuable medicine.
Guys, also, I'm just going to give you a pitch. Get yourself creative partners that hold you accountable to like being yourself. Because I feel the same way about this space, right? It's like, that's why both of my work with you and with Liz is like so, I mean, I don't have words for how fucking special it is, because in both places, it feels like I'm held and also I'm held accountable.
Yeah, those are great. Those are the good. Yep, those are the good friendships, and that's what you do for me too. And sometimes I'm like, damn it. Yeah, or I don't want to listen, but yeah.
So thank you. Come to Magic Circle, and if you love it, or if you want to like just jump in, You can also just sign up for as a monthly membership. It's a little bit less expensive. And then we also have like a group that we hope, like a ongoing dialogue in this Telegram app, which is like a Voxer or Facebook Messenger or whatever. So that the idea of like playing the game of human and God at the same time, you have kind of an ongoing space to share what's coming up for you and be held and be held accountable. So if you want that, if you want a little bit of both, just do the whole membership. But if you're curious to just test it out, come to Circle.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
How about you, my love?
Let's see. So by the time this is out, you folks will have 2 more weeks to sign up for my meditation program for people whose lives have been impacted by alcoholism or addiction. Let's see, let me think. So I think the early bird special is now over, but at this point, the price is still only $400. And after that, the week after that, it's going to go up to $500. So about the program, if you don't already know, I mean, this program is just so near and dear to my heart, and it's been really interesting to hear from the people. I think it's been really encouraging for me to hear from people who are like coming out of the woodworks and being like, yes, I have this experience. I know what it is. Oftentimes actually mixed in with like addiction is mixed in with mental illness. And so people are sharing their stories with me about their parents' mental illness, their caretakers' mental illness, their partner's mental illness, that and their addiction, and how difficult that is, and like traumatizing and overwhelming and confusing and frustrating. And this is again, I want to stress, this isn't just for people who are experiencing this now, though that may be your situation. It's a lot of the people who are reaching out to me are like me, where this was something that they dealt with in childhood or like, a long time ago. Yet, as we all know, I think when we grow up in a situation where maybe we are with an addict, we don't always get our needs met, and it blocks us from developing in certain ways that we just like, that we're now still learning about, always and maybe forever, in deeper and deeper ways. So this program is very much a meditation program, and but also like looking at through the lens of meditation to help us deal with the stuff that happens when our caretakers are struggling with their own shit. So I'm really excited about this program. I truly believe that meditation is just like the basis of everything that I feel like I share on this podcast, which is about when we can be still with ourselves, then we can be still with God, and just everything comes from there. Like the connecting with our body, our intuition, self-trust, compassion for others, learn everything, like disidentifying from the mind. It all starts with like stillness, and also honing and like caring for our nervous systems, which is really what the practice of meditation is about. So I'm kind of just merging these things, all of my years of meditation experience with my own personal experience. And I'm excited, honestly, to like have conversations in this community, because I think there's always so much shame, or often there's a lot of shame around like this experience. Even now, I was just talking to someone whose like partner is going through, is in rehab, and they just got checked in, and it's a lot. So, and I think there's nothing more freeing than being in a room with other people who like can see and hear your experience without judgment. And then you can also see yourself in them, and everyone is just witnessed, and you don't feel like a weirdo. And you're just like, there's like something really healing and validating about that.
Yeah.
And to release that shame, I just think this is going to be healing in all different kinds of directions, for people who also want to really take this. It's the healing from like a really spiritual perspective, which is, where my work lies.
I love, you mentioned stillness, and it's funny because I was thinking of it just before you said it. Like, I think, when someone that you love is an addict or like has issues with substances, especially in our developing years, it creates this baked in sense of unsafety. And so stillness can feel really uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. Stillness can feel like the space where you're just waiting for the shoe to drop.
Yeah. The last thing you want to do, right? It's like the scariest place to go.
Yeah. And so, and it is of course the very thing that you're so fucking hungry for. So I think So I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who are like, oh, that sounds great, but meditation, I suck at meditating. And it's like, yeah, exactly, because it doesn't feel comfortable or safe. And also our girl Eva can help you walk you to a place where it feels like just a tool in your tool chest.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. A tool in your tool chest that I think like, yeah, but to me though, again, I think because meditation for me particularly has been so profound, it's a tool that also affects like every aspect of your life, because I think when you can sit with yourself in stillness, what you're really learning is that you no longer have to be afraid of yourself. If you're not afraid of yourself, you're not afraid of anything. Like it's like big medicine. And I totally hear what you're saying. Like, I think you're spot on that so many people are like, meditation's like not for me, because they think that it has to be done a certain way or it has to look a certain way, or because of they immediately associate that stillness with like, or that discomfort as like, I must be doing it wrong. It's me. It's like a me thing. And a lot, and that's the way that I like to teach it is so opposite of that. It really embodies a lot of love and compassion and like softness to help us get over, or I guess like come into this practice in a different way, instead of this like rigidity and the discipline that I think people oftentimes associate with this practice. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you for pointing that out, because I think it's an important point.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get started in August, folks. 7 weeks long. If you have any questions, you can send me a message on Instagram, or just check out my website at evaliao.com.
Beautiful.
Cool. Yay.
All right, my love. How are you?
I'm a mixed bag.
Question for both of us.
Yeah. I'm a real mixed bag. I think I just came in from a walk outside, which is like, so I think it's just amazing. Like we've talked about how like kids can be throwing tantrums and you put them outside and all of a sudden they're just like quiet. I just feel that very much in my bones. Like, if you had asked me this morning, I think I was in a lot of heavy emotion, and then just having like gone out and been outside and looked at the flowers and moved my body around, my energy shifted into this other place. That's a very long answer to say though, that it's a mixed bag. I am going through some stuff in my personal life that feels really heavy and difficult. I am back in therapy, which is actually, I would add that to like my list of things of joy, actually, because it's been, I mean, I don't know. I know I'm a freak in this way, but I fucking love therapy. Like I'm one of those people, I can't wait to get on my call with my therapist at this point, because I just have found it so helpful.
When you find someone, in that, I would like to come back to that particular thing of like finding a good therapist, but carry on with your update.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't even know where to begin. So there's a lot of stuff moving in my personal life. It's goopy and it's heavy, and simultaneously there's a lot of beautiful things going on too. And I feel maybe as a result of the goopiness, because I feel like I'm doing a lot of things that bring me joy. Like I think being out in nature is a huge one, and like being with friends and giving myself permission to just to do for all the things that I need permission for, which is a lot, and all of that feels really lovely too. But I will say, I'm so fucking happy it's summer.
Yeah, like finally for you. You've been waiting for a long time up in Portland.
And I think I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but folks, if you are listening, cat's out of the bag. I don't think I'll be staying in Portland long term, because it is just too cloudy. I want to live a life where I can spend more time outside than inside. And you can't do that when it's fucking raining all the time.
The girl who grew up in LA, like, whose family is in Taiwan and loves Taiwan and loves the fucking desert, does not seem like the same girl that feels like Portland is her element. So this makes sense.
Yeah. And the way that I feel about it, actually, because I've moved around so much, is that I truly believe that I'll speak for myself. I could fall in love with any place, because I think falling in love with the place, like making somewhere a home, really is about memories that you create and positive associations that you have with a place that takes time to cultivate over time. It's like, and and I think I could do that at Portland. And I think I was willing to try that. If also Adam was maybe in love with Portland, maybe I would have been like, okay, like I will like commit to this process. But we both don't like it. So I'm like, it's not, the trade-off isn't worth it for me. I don't know if I'm gonna like stay long term. So yeah. Anyway, summer.
I know what you're saying about being able to fall in love with most places, and I do think
every place does have like something wonderful to offer, and Portland is wonderful in a lot of ways. Like the Pacific Northwest is magical in a lot of ways, but you've also heard me talk about how I think some of it is just like, I don't know, maybe it's like, you know, how people talk about astrocartography, where maybe it has something to do with whatever, my past lives or astrology or whatever. But I do feel that I know when a place feels like connected to my soul, and when it just kind of feels flat. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with like the location, you know, it has nothing to do with my judgments about the qualities of a place.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I deeply resonate with that. Yeah. I'm excited to see I don't know, all that unfolds.
What I'm interested in is like, so, you know, it's July now, when we come back in fall, it'll be interesting like to see how, you know, hopefully there'll be updates, and it'll be interesting to share with everyone how things are unfolding. Yeah. So what about you? How are you, my friend?
Also looking for a therapist. This is the shit is real episode.
This is where we are, folks, which is so interesting because we also just had an episode a couple of weeks ago with Cassandra where we were talking about sometimes therapy just doesn't cut it, or like you outgrow it, or it's like, and I think all of that is true.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what's been interesting, right? Like I'm always a big proponent of therapy. I'm a big fan of like, I've been in and out of therapy many times, like basically since I was, you know, for basically my whole adult life, right? It's like a touchstone. It's like a resource that's there for me. And I've seen a couple of different therapists, all of whom have been lovely in the chapter in which I saw them. The world is fucking scary as a mom right now. Like everyone, and I don't mean to say exclusively as a mom, just like that's the space from which I stand. And both my mom and my husband pointed out to me, like, you seem not your best self. Like you just seem really wound up. And I was like, you're right. So I have also been on the hunt. I mentioned on the podcast, like I had some big personal life kind of stuff drop into my life a couple months ago. And then also, this moment, you know, when the thing I was saying to my best friend earlier today, when COVID first hit, the world seemed very unsteady. And also as a mom, it was very clear, like my job is to keep my kids in this little bubble. That's how I keep them safe, which is great because they were 1 and 3. All they wanted was to be in a little bubble with me and my husband. So it was actually lovely, right? Like even as outside, it was scary. In our little bubble, it was so sweet to have all this extra time with them. And like, it was very clear what we needed to do. And now my son's going into kindergarten, you know, like my daughter is older, and the world, I feel like the world feels, the way in which the world feels unsafe between all of these mass shootings and school shootings and Roe v. Wade feels like suddenly my children are less safe. And also my job is somehow to like send them out into the world.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And that tension feels really fucking overwhelming. If I'm honest, if I get really honest with myself, that feels, I don't feel clear on how to navigate that. Right. Whereas like with COVID, it was like, okay, it's very clear to me how to navigate this. And therefore I actually it wasn't a scary experience to me from the perspective of being a mother.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Because the very thing that I think you want for your kids, what you feel like you should be helping them doing at developmentally is also like, but am I sending them into direct danger? Like they just seem like they're opposing one another.
Yeah. And you know, like there's just like a layer in general of like being a mom with like kids who are about to go into school that's like confusing and overwhelming, like, you know, like in a kind of more neutral setting. but nothing feels neutral right now.
Mhm.
And you could also argue that, maybe things have always been terrible, and this is just my particular window into the way in which things are challenging. But yeah, I've just been feeling like I've shared on the podcast a lot before too, that I had pretty intense experiences of like postpartum anxiety when both my kids were born. And
Mhm.
a big like clue for me was I started having intrusive thoughts recently around my kids' safety,
Mm.
like, which hasn't happened since they were babies, right? So I would be like,
Oh man, intrusive thoughts. That's
I know they're the
but I'm
worst.
happy that you're speaking to it, because that's like such a real thing. And also it's great that you can notice it though. I mean, that in itself I think is like progress, because I think what's scariest is when you have them and you don't even know what they are. You don't have a label for them and you think that they're true. But yeah,
Yes.
can you
And you
tell
try
me?
to like argue with, yes, I can speak to
Yeah.
what they are. Yeah. So it's
Mhm.
basically when like this thought just like barges into your brain that is like kind of from like, so I'll use the example of my kids for, because when they show up for me, it's usually around my kids' safety. And so it will be like all of a sudden when my kids were little ones, I remember walking down the stairs with Desi, and I would just like be like, I'm gonna drop him and he's gonna die. Like,
Mhm.
and it would just like drop in that, like it was this like really intense
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah. It's like a
And
very loud thought, and it seems like at that moment the only thought.
yes. And then I think if we're not cognizant of what they are, we then try to like we either like spiral with them of like all the ways that would happen and would be terrible, or we try to argue with them, but that's like arguing with a drunk girl at the party, like it doesn't go well.
Yeah, and then you're it's really occupying a lot of your mental capacity, which is
Yes.
exhausting.
Yes. And so I've noticed them in particular the past couple of weeks, like popping in. I'm trying to like think of an example, but basically that idea, like something just like barging into my head. It's like basically like some terrible thing happening,
Mhm.
like like for example, have always once my kids got old enough, I would let them play downstairs while I took a shower. And this morning, shut the door, but like they're fine. They're just playing. They don't, neither of them are going to go outside. But this morning, like I couldn't, it didn't feel comfortable, or it felt like actually like terrifying to me that I would be in the shower and like who knows what would happen. And so I
Mhm.
was like, okay, actually, let's watch a TV show. And like, that's fine. They were fucking psyched to watch a TV show. But for me, the motivation was then I can relax in the shower because I'll know that you're safe, because you won't leave, because they're just zombies for two. They won't leave the TV,
Yeah.
as opposed to like they're just not the kind of kids who would do anything. Like it would have been fine. It's been fine a million times, but
Yeah.
I just
Totally.
couldn't access that.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you did a beautiful job explaining it. And I think it's helpful for people to hear, or just like, yeah, this is normal. Like it happens and this is what it is. And, awareness, I think is really helpful. But,
I
um,
oh, go ahead.
no,
Oh, I was just say, I think if they do show up for you, and you kind of alluded to this, I think just acknowledging that that's what they are
Mhm.
is really, really helpful, because it takes, one of the things, a gift that you gave me in taking me through like Katie Byron's The Work is this question of like, is this true?
Mhm.
Right. Or is it absolutely true? Or
Yeah, it's both. Is it true? And then you also ask, is this absolutely true? Which gets real trippy, by the way. That's where like I feel like that's where it gets really esoteric, because really she's asking, is anything true? Is anything that you think is true? And you can start really taking apart the nature of reality.
yeah. Yeah. And so like I think when we can just witness like, oh, like this is, whether you want to call it intrusive thoughts or like, some other kind of name, but just to witness like this is not the voice of truth and reason. This
Mhm.
is a particular kind of fear that's showing up for me, and I can witness it without needing to either prove or disprove it. And I can just kind of let it be there. And I think
Mm.
make choices of like, well, what will give me the greatest amount of comfort, right? So in that moment, it was
Mhm.
like, if I sacrifice the shower, that would be sacrificing my
Mhm.
self-care to like prop up this illusion of safety, right? To like
Right,
reinforce this fear
exactly.
cycle. And also, it didn't actually feel, I would have been really freaked out in the shower. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
enjoyed my shower because the thoughts would have been running. So it's like, what can you do to take care of yourself and kind of maybe disarm the fear a little bit without feeding it? So it's a tricky balance, but anyway,
I think
starts
you're
with
bringing witnessing. So I'm really glad you brought up this point, because I think this actually ties in well to, I think, what meditation is. And because I have meditation on the brain, I think this is like a good time to point out that I think what you're doing in that moment, anytime that we can observe a thought, what's happening is like the word that you use is you're witnessing it. And I think what's interesting is to notice that, like, who is the witness? Like, that's what's always so interesting to me, because the person who witnesses, that's what I consider our real true selves. So it's like you have all these thoughts, but there's someone who's watching you have those thoughts. And the question is, who is that person? And I think that's always like really interesting, because that's, I don't know, there's different language for it. You could call that consciousness, you can call that the observer, you can call that awareness, you can call that higher self, whatever. But like there is a watcher of the thoughts, and that watcher is disidentified a little bit more, just one step removed. And when you can like occupy the space of the witnesser, I think that's when we experience a lot more freedom, which is essentially what meditation is, part of what meditation is, because it is about like, you just start observing, and you occupy the space of the witnesser, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I might have said this on the podcast before, but I've kind of, instead of higher self, I have found myself using the language of a deeper, wiser self, because it feels more like an embodiment for me. Right. Yeah. And that's like when I physically visualize tuning in, I envision dropping in. Right. So deeper, wiser just speaks to me more.
Yeah.
But I think that part of me, that deeper, wiser self, she's not interested in arguing the validity or invalidity of the thought, right? She doesn't, it's like she's untouched by it, right? Not not from the like gaslighting place, but just, I might have told this story before, but this is like a go-to example for me. I had this boss when I was, I don't know, in my mid-20s, and he thought I was stupid. And like, I hated working for this guy for other reasons, but the fact that he didn't think I was smart, like, just made me laugh, because of all the things about myself that I am secure and insecure, but like, I'm really fucking smart, guys. So like, this guy's opinion that I was not smart, like, just it didn't affect me, because it was irrelevant, right?
Because you didn't believe it, so therefore you weren't identified with it, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it just was like, it was just like passing water. The fact that he thought I was lazy totally took to heart, and I had a lot of issues with, right? Because so my point being, like, your deeper, wiser self is not concerned with intrusive thoughts, is not concerned about like our hunger for validation, or our stories of the ways in which we're good or bad. Like, she just, or they, or he like, they just exist and like, and expand. Yeah.
I think you said, okay, so I'm gonna make 2 points. You said something to me once, it just in passing, that I don't even think like was something that like stayed with me. But one time you were talking about something, maybe I think off recording, and you were like, I'm just not interested in that thought anymore. And you just kept saying that. You're like, I'm not interested in that thought anymore. And I was like, that's an interesting way of putting it. Like, cool. And then over the course of the next couple of days, I noticed that also, like, I would have these thoughts that, I don't know, the language of being like, I found myself being like, oh, am I interested in that thought? And I was like, I'm not interested in that thought. It was a really, I loved it.
Thanks for giving that back to me, because I forgot that does sound like a really great, I like that.
I think this will make much more sense for listeners. Also, like, if you apply it to your own self, like, because right now it might sound a little nebulous, because when you first said it, I was just like, you have just planted a seed, which maybe is what we might be doing for others. But then when I actually was in a situation where I could apply that, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, I'm not interested in that thought. And it was just like, you don't have to do so much work to like change the thought or like positive reinforcement. It's just like, not interested.
Yes, because that's the thing I think that really, like, when, especially I'm observing it more because I have like the volume feels turned up on anxiety. And for me, anxiety and thoughts go hand in hand, right? And there's this like ping pong thing that happens, that like the thought is true, the thought is false, the thought is true, this thought is false. That is like so fucking boring, right? Yeah. And we can feel like we can just feel kind of caught in that energy. And this idea of like, I think one of the things one of the things I've been asking myself lately is like, how do I drop under that, right? How do I drop beneath that? And remembering like, oh, this is actually boring. I don't want to play this game. Feels to me so much lighter than this game doesn't serve you. Put the ping pong paddle down, right? Like
totally, exactly. I mean, I think you know, it's always subjective. Like that might be helpful in one situation, right. And like, you know, not being interested is helpful in another situation. But the second thing that I wanted to say about this idea of like higher self. So I have mixed feelings about the word because I think it's been co-opted in a way that it can sound really annoying. Like it almost as if sounds that like, oh, if there's a higher self, then that also means that there's a lower self. You know, I think there's some sort of like, I don't know, icky connotation that I don't love with the idea. But what I think is interesting is what you're talking about is like dropping in deeply, which I think is huge, like, which is the path, right? That's so much of the path. But I also think simultaneously, and this is again where paradox comes in, because you know, with one thing's true, there's always going to be opposing thing that's true. And the thing about what I think about higher self that does resonate with me is this idea of like, again, it's actually a Byron Katie idea, but she would talk about how when she like went through her whole, you know, I don't know, for people who don't know Byron Katie, I don't even know how to explain it. She had this like an Eckhart Tolle moment where she snaps and all of a sudden supposedly she's awakened, but like she would go around observing herself, and if she had a thought, she would say like, oh, she thinks this, or she thinks this. And I have found that to be really helpful for me, where sometimes I will be in a tizzy about something and it almost does seem like I'm the witness, and I like almost, it does feel like a higher self where I'm looking down at myself and saying, oh, she thinks that this is a bad thing, or she's caught up in this story, and I'm completely disidentified from it for a second. And it's sometimes hilarious, actually. It's so funny to see myself be like so caught up in something. And I think that's helpful for me because I have had situations before where I realize like I am not the doer. Like I am not the doer. There's something that is simultaneously me, but also greater than me, that is the doer. And like literally even moving my body, sometimes I've had moments where I'm like, I'm not breathing, you know, you've heard me talk about this. I'm not breathing, I'm being breathed. Like it's something that's happening to and through me. And that's kind of what I mean by higher self, because it does feel like not a grounded, not like a going in, but also kind of like a rising up of being able to see a macro, like whole zoomed out picture. And I think that's it's just interesting, I think, to look at the language of like higher self, because that's kind of what resonates with me. And simultaneously also recognizing that so often the medicine for me is also like going deep and in my body, you know,
you're
those
giving
things are like opposite kind of.
Well, and I think what you're gifting me is like a way of, this is the deliciousness of paradox, of like actually bringing both of those together, right? Because the the way I visualize like dropping beneath something is almost like it's like almost like a cartoon character, like I'm being like caught in some harness that I'm like struggling to get out of, and it's like, oh, I can just lift my arms and like slip right out. You know, and like then I might be free falling into this like the void, but that's actually where I want to be, right? But I also really like, you're giving me kind of new life on, because the reason higher self stopped feeling resonant was kind of to what you were saying, is like I felt like it was putting my own consciousness on a pedestal and then saying like, this is the lower self, she doesn't get anything. And also, but there's this other me who like has all the answers, and that feels, that just doesn't totally like resonate for me. But I really like this idea of like actually kind of speaking to the like the bigness of the witness who looks down and is like, that's so cute, she thinks any of this matters.
It's exactly that. It's like when you finally see that the whole, it's just a comedy, like all of this is just just theatrics, and like a really, like when you zoom out enough where you can laugh at the situation. And I think anytime I've had a teacher who's like helped me laugh and just see that everything is hilarious and ridiculous, that's when I've got a good teacher, because I think that's when we're closer to the truth of reality.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Well, and I feel like even that's one of the things I say about our shows. Like, I think that one of the strengths of our podcast is that, like, whenever we're describing it to people, and like one of the tenets is that we don't take ourselves that seriously.
Yeah.
You know, like, we are going to go into heavy, serious things, and we're going to show up with a great amount of integrity, and also like we're not going to take ourselves seriously.
Yeah.
And that feels like the juice.
Yeah.
Okay, can we talk about therapy though? Because I've been
Yes, please. Yes.
so I have not yet started therapy, but I've been like looking for someone. And again, I have this like long line of having had great therapists. None of the therapists I worked with before feel like the right person for this particular moment. And so I'm trying to find a new person. And it feels very complicated. In part because I'm like I'm scrolling these people's bios and I'm like, nope. And it's not, and I want to say it's not because I'm judgmental, but I'm totally feeling judgmental. And some part of me is like,
oh, I'm so judgmental, by the way, when I find a therapist. We'll talk about that too.
Okay. Yes. So I'm curious about your process, because some part of me feels like there's some part of me that's like, oh, is this just my own ego that's like, well, I'm so great because I'm a spiritual coach. And so like, even though I need therapy, I'm still really fucking great.
Yeah. Okay. So,
and like, you're not good enough for me. Right. Like,
yeah, totally. Yes. Okay. I'm so happy you're talking about this, because I've been through this. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's actually validating to hear you talk about this process, because I was going through that process. And I will say, gosh, where do I even want to start? I was super judgmental. I'm really picky about my therapist, but there was a piece of me that was like, oh, like it's gonna be so hard for me to find someone because like I've done all my work and I'm like, whatever, I'm advanced, or you know, like these ridiculous things that the ego says. So that was there. But what happened was, and it's a balance, because what happened was, I did end up working for someone like at some point previous, like a couple months ago, where I was like, you know what, maybe let me just fucking get off my high horse and stop being such a whatever, an asshole, and just like work with someone and see how it goes. And it was completely a disaster. It was not fulfilling. Like, she could not keep up with me. And I could tell, like, I tried to be really nice about it too. And I even found myself like making myself small sometimes because I felt bad, but she could not keep up. She could not hold space. I was moving like 5 times faster than her. And I was like frustrated. And so I guess what I'm trying to say, so I guess what I'm trying to say is like, it's okay to feel picky. And
it feels validating, because I was, yeah.
Yeah. And so this is what I tell people about therapy all the time, because like you, I've also been through, been in and out of therapy my entire life. And I think therapy is like dating. It's like, you're going to have to try a couple people before you find someone that you like. And I have no problem going and be like, I have high standards, because I have high standards and I know my shit. Like, I know my shit. And even if I need my ego checked, I need someone who can check my ego, who's not going to be so nice and like doesn't have the experience of calling me out and being like, hey girl, you need to check your ego. Like, that's someone who I need. So I think, yeah, have high standards is what I will say. And then I will also, well, I didn't practice this myself. It did happen for me in like a, sort of spiritual synchronistic way. And so I think, I can share this with you and anyone else who might be looking for support, but like, I forgot to apply my own principles about like my coaches and my spiritual mentors to therapy. Because I think with therapy, it's like, I was kind of going on websites and like looking at profiles and kind of like you were saying, and that felt like very, clinical. But when I'm looking for like a spiritual mentor, I'm more like, oh, this person resonates with me. It's like, I let universe sort of do its thing. And so when I was looking for a therapist in that very clinical way, I didn't find anyone. It was really hard. And I was like getting on these, 15-minute consult calls with people. And what I will tell you also from my experience is that, immediately when the person's it and the person's not it. I can tell really quickly. I need a therapist who's like, I know this sounds crazy, but I don't need them to be that nice. I want them to be like, I think a lot of the therapists that are talking about were really gentle and really like, and I have a very strong personality. So like, I need someone who has a strong personality to match mine. And I was meeting with people who I just felt like I would just like blaze over them.
Well, I also think I think a lot of people want and need gentleness because going into their shadowy places is uncomfortable. So they need to be made safe.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
Which
yes.
is like, I'll take you by the hand. You can do this. It's going to be okay. And you and I are like, where's the entrance to the shadowy part?
Exactly.
I have my ticket. Show me.
But yeah, I want to make it really clear.
I bought
like
the fast pass.
Exactly. But I want to be clear. There's nothing wrong with needing like because I will say the therapist that I've had now is also very gentle. She just happens to do a really good job of doing both.
Also,
and
I think I am now in a place of like, I bought the fast pass to the shadowy shit because I had a long line of gorgeous, gentle therapists who took me by the hand and let me take baby steps. Right. So like this is, and there may be very well some other point in my life where I'm like back to wanting like gentle, like niceness. So I agree with you. It's not a like a judgment.
It's not a sign of anything. It's not like, oh, if you need someone who's gentle, it means that you're whatever, like somehow worse off or something. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like, I think, I actually feel safer. It's like, the thing that I always said about Will, my mentor, who I've mentioned on the show a couple of times, is like, I felt, it's actually the same thing I said about you and Liz. He held me and also held me accountable.
Yes. Yeah,
and
exactly.
And that's the thing that I think to your point about like checking your, like someone who can check your ego. Like, I want to be called on my shit. You know? Yeah. I think, but you found someone you really like.
Well, so then this is what happened. The reason, I think this is where I feel like God intervened, because I had interviewed with a bunch of people, and like, not a bunch, I think maybe like, my experience was like, I had tried BetterHelp actually at one point. That was like a year ago, when I was just like, this is like in the pandemic, and I was like, maybe it'd be helpful if I got someone, and then tried it, didn't like it, like, again, didn't feel like the people were up to my standards, I guess you could say. So like, didn't, and then more recently, I would say like a couple months ago, looked for a therapist again. That's when I was like, let me stop being so cocky and try it. And turns out I was right. Like, she wasn't a good match for me. And then God intervened, because I got into this place where I was having like a crisis moment. And just so I'm not so vague about it for listeners, I am going through something, meaning I'm going through something with my partner. And I know this part he's comfortable with me talking about. He's going through like a whole medical procedure, and that's been like really stressful. And so there was this day where we were in the hospital and all this stuff happened, and I was having like a crisis moment. And one of the women who I had like reached out to and done like a 15-minute consult she was the only one that I liked. And she was like, we hadn't even talked about like whether or not she's going to be my therapist. She reached out to me and was like, hey, I have an opening like tomorrow. And because I was going through a crisis situation, I was like, oh wait, was it the same day? Anyway, I took it. But the point that I'm trying to make though, is also that when I got it, she was the only person on the consults who I liked. And I knew that I liked her right away. And of course, not surprisingly, she was the most expensive one. She charges a lot more than anyone else that I talked to. And I think it's because she's had years of experience.
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's part of, so I found someone, we have like a consult call scheduled for later in the week, but instantly I had that sense of like, oh yeah, this is the person. Like I just had that like total knowing, like this is the person. And then, but meanwhile, and that's just true, like Psychology Today, if you don't already know, listeners, Psychology Today has a really, really great database. I've been pimping this database for like 15 years.
Oh yeah, this is what I was using. This is how I found my therapist. That's how.
Yeah. And like it used to be like super, like it would just be the picture and their name, and now it's got like bios. It gives you lots of information. I found so many great therapists through it. I recommend it to people all the time. So that's that's where I found this person. But meanwhile, my husband was like, oh, I have this resource through work. And like, it's actually like the copay is like $5 if you like, it's like, it's not BetterHelp, but it's like the same idea. It's like all telehealth. And he was like, while you're reading, he's like, why don't you just try that? And so you have to fill out this form. And I instantly was so fucking busy. So like I'm on like a big anti-capitalism kick. That's a whole nother thing that like, I mean, that's like always rumbling, but it's like feels really fucking loud lately, because I'm in like, I am in full revolutionary mode.
Ooh, okay, let's talk about that. So let's pin in that and come back. Yeah.
So and so like the first few questions are like, how is your it was like all about like how it's impacting your productivity, and I was like, this is the fucking problem.
Yeah. Good for you. No, but good for you though. Good for you, because you're seeing how, I mean, I think that is the problem.
I was just like getting so mad and pointing, because like just try it. And I was like, I know. And I was like, and I'm not saying that it's a therapist, like it's just this form is fucking terrible. And so then I get through to it. And the other thing is I also really want to find someone who is not exclusively like, I want to find someone who has some kind of spiritual expansiveness to their own perspective. Not doesn't have to be the same, except but it that feels really important, because I think someone who is like super like research specific, like research oriented only, and like CBT.
That's so important to me. That's like the first thing that I say to my therapist. I'm like, I want you to know I'm a very spiritual person, and like if we're gonna work together, like that's gonna be part of our conversation.
It just it wouldn't make sense. Like it would just be like we wouldn't be speaking the same language. But meanwhile, like when my husband has at different times been in therapy, and like has like had like this therapist who was super research only oriented, and was like fucking great fit, right? So
that's Adam likes the research oriented ones too.
Yes. Yeah. So so anyways, I'm like going through these bios, but also like it's like through his work, and so all the bios are like super clinical, and I'm like trying to like basically like look for clues of like, are you secretly a spiritual person in there?
Oh my, yes, I hear you, because that is really important. Like that, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's like definitely one of my main priorities, that this person is spiritually open.
And it wasn't previously. I feel like it's never something I've like actually thought about in years past, but in this moment, like it just would make no fucking sense to not have someone who could like, when I roll in and I'm like, okay, so my crisis is that nothing is real. Like I exactly. And how I parent in that paradigm while we're actively building the revolution, like that's the person I need to hold space for me.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't feel like CBT is the right.
Yes, exactly. I actually do think that a lot of therapists are spiritual, though.
I do too. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And actually, one of our very first guests, Caroline Corcoran.
Yeah.
She was someone who actually, I think, helped me recognize how much that's just like, which makes sense, but that's like actually, she's a therapist who has,
who's also very spiritual,
and like part of her, I think she, if I remember correctly, like part of her master's degree like included like spirituality as part of her like specialization.
Right. So I forgot about that. Yeah.
So anyway, TBD, but so far none of the people from the like company app have gotten back to me, which might be a saving grace, because
well, I guess what I'm trying to say though, for you and anyone listening, is that like what I wish I hadn't done was doubt myself. The doubt was like, oh, I'm being too cocky. And also that I was like, I mean, I get it. Because I want to be like open-minded. And so I would try these new things, maybe it took me trying new things and it not working out for me to be like, okay, I can finally just like trust this. But it was like, yeah, when I spoke to my therapist's name is Emily. When I spoke to her, like, it was just so weird how quickly I knew. And also when she told me how much she charges, my heart sank, because I was like, oh, of course, she's like double, I think, what like most of my other people. But then what happened was crisis forced me into it, which sometimes can be the most helpful thing, because now I feel very grateful that I just
took the plunge.
Yeah. So that's my takeaway.
Well, I will, and I'm also glad we're having this conversation, because I think like we are year 800 into a pandemic. There's like constant shootings, like Roe v. Wade has been overturned, like gas prices are $1,000 a pump. Like there is a lot.
There's so much going on. Inflation is going there. It's
the war in Ukraine. Like, we fucking forgot. Like we've already like that feels like it was 800 years ago, right? Like there is so like meaning the like kind of these like crises, I feel like, are just like one after another after another. None of us have had a chance to fucking reset our nervous system. Like this is a lot. And I think I'm glad that we're having this really transparent conversation about like both of us like seeking out therapy. And like it's one of the things I love about the space we hold together, because it's like there's no, I think a younger me would have thought, oh, I get far enough in my spiritual practice and development and embodiment that I don't like, I don't know, need help or right. Like I think that younger me definitely would have thought that. And I just feel like, yeah, get the fucking help you need. This is not, this isn't easy for a lot of people. And if you think it would be helpful to have a fucking soft place to land, allow yourself a soft space to land.
I think suddenly I'm just overcome with this feeling of like there's something sad here and beautiful. The sad thing that I'm realizing is that like I think what's happening is normally if someone is going through a crisis, we all work together. So like if I'm going through a crisis, I have someone else who like lifts me up. And then when that person is going through a crisis, they have someone who lifts them up. But collectively, like on a collective social, national, maybe global level, we're all being inundated with like global crises. So we're all experiencing these like mini sort of traumatic things simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so I guess like what I'm noticing is that like no one has a reprieve. And so everyone's kind of being affected in this way. But at the same time, that just reinforces my reminder of like, we need each other. Like this is collective work. Like I need other people. And when they are helping me, I'm more resourced to help other people. And then they go and help other people. Like this is one of those wonderful things. It's like, we are a wonderful example of how we actually are all connected, all one, which can sound kind of trite sometimes, but it just feels very apparent to me in this moment of like, we need each other because we're all going through it and grief comes in waves. And so that's definitely what I've been experiencing, like with the world, like it comes. So there'll be moments where I'm just like knocked off my ass and like, I can't function because I'm overwhelmed by like, and then that'll pass. And then someone will help me in those moments, you know, or like you'll reach out a helping hand and be like, hey, how are you? And I can talk to you. And then I feel better so that when someone else next to me is also going through it, but we're kind of going through it all together, but the grief is coming at different times for different people. So yeah. And there's something beautiful about that. I think that we need each other kind of more than ever.
I think that's really true. And I think we can also help each other more by being transparent with our needs, right? Like admitting to ourselves like, hey, this feels hard, whether it feels hard today or for like more drawn out period. I think one of the other things for me is like, you know, I've obviously shared a lot about how I've had, you know, anxiety has been, I've got a long relationship with it, right? And I have always, my anxiety has never been a truth teller. And so one of the ways that I managed anxiety was always to be like, cool, I see you, I love you. And also you're completely correct. Like you're not wrong. This isn't the reality, right? Like your fear is like, everyone doesn't hate you. It's fine.
Right? Your fear is a lie.
And I think what feels really confusing to me in this moment is like, yes, my anxiety is like, you know, like those intrusive thoughts, like it's turning the volume up. And also there is a level of unsafety that is real, right? So before, when I would have these stories like, oh no, what if nobody loves me? Like that wasn't, that didn't have, I don't know how to describe this, but this feels, one of the ways in which this moment feels complicated is this idea that like, well, there are very real unsafe things happening. And the world does actually seem like a less safe place than it did 10 years ago. And especially specifically as it relates to like my children, my daughter's body, like all of these things. And I think, and so my old tools around anxiety don't quite feel like, I think that's a big reason why I felt like, okay, therapy feels like the right choice, because my old tools don't feel like exactly the right tools.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I am curious, okay, so I want to like, there's so many places I want to go with that. I want to talk about like, America for a second. And then I also want to talk about nothing is real.
Yes.
Okay. So,
and the revolution, we have to get back to
we had to end the revolution. Okay. So,
listeners, when we first started, we were both like, I don't really know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Seriously. Thank you. This conversation, it was reminding me that, yeah, once we get on a roll, we're on a roll. But, do you feel, something that I've been wondering is like, do you feel like the world feels more unsafe? Is this a global thing, or is this like the downfall of a nation and we're just feeling it as Americans for the first time in our lifetime, where we didn't have to experience this before, but like, people in other, like, this is what I feel like people in other countries who don't have governments that they can trust feel like all the time. They feel unsafe. And I just think America is, I don't know, headed in that direction, or yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right. We're definitely living through the death of an empire. That feels really clear to me.
Yeah. And so I think, sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
I don't know I don't know what I'm trying to say, or it just feels like, we're experiencing, I don't know why this is helpful for me, but I think I do find something helpful for me to be like, I think it's really scary when I think, oh my God, this is like the world that I know as I know it is like completely upside down, and that feels so dangerous. There's something actually nice, I don't know why, maybe this is not a healthy thing, about being like, oh wait, actually no, other people have been through this too. Like historically this happens all the time, and we're still here. Like as a human species, we're still here. And I think framing it that way feels helpful for me, because I'm like, yeah, this is just like the death of an empire. It's not great. I'm not saying like it's okay and that it feels great, but there's something about like also framing it as an inevitable, like, natural order of things.
I think that's where the intensity of, like, I think that's where motherhood like feels big for me in this in particular. Like, when the elementary school shooting happened in Texas, like I mean, I couldn't even talk on the show about it. Like I was like, I can't, because I couldn't, like, literally it felt like all of me oriented around like this almost primal singular focus of creating safety for my kids. Nothing else mattered. Like I couldn't even speak to anyone else's experience except for mothers. Like I didn't, it was this almost bizarre, because as you know, like I'm a really, I like to think I'm a pretty empathetic person. I only gave a shit about mothers. I didn't even care about dads. Like I only gave a shit about mothers. No one else's opinion or experience even mattered to me in this like not logical, completely primal kind of way. And so, and I don't think that's actually gone away. Like it's that sense has kind of like ebbed and flowed of like, I have space for other people's perspectives and experiences again. But like that sense of like this kind of, I'm saying this word primal because I don't know how else to describe it, but it feels like this like snapped awake part of me that was like, oh, we weren't needed before, but now we're needed. And again, maybe it's just my anxiety speaking. Like,
wait, when you say we weren't needed before, who do you mean?
This part of me that feels like it's like kind of taking up residence. And again, once I sit with it, I might discover that it's just my anxiety. It doesn't exclusively feel like anxiety, because it feels, anxiety for me has a lot of sense of powerlessness, and this has a sense of like direction and power to it. But that has not really actually gone away since that particular school shooting. And again, the context is like, I have a kid who's going to be in kindergarten, right? So there's like Anyway, and so I think that's where this shit feels confusing to me, to be honest. Like on some level, I'm like, yep, this is the death of an empire. Like, it shit needs to die, right? Like my medicine is Ragnarok. Like, right, this is we're living through a Ragnarok. And also, like, I don't on some there is some part of me that's like, and I don't care about anything except for keeping my kids safe.
Yeah.
And
can you tie this back to what we were talking about? Because I feel like you were really talking about how, I guess, how does this tie to this idea of like death of an empire?
So I think the reason the first response that I had was just about this like kind of hyper fixation on safety is because that feels very real. It feels like, yeah, this is a crumbling, like this is the death of a nation. This is a kind of crumbling. And there are ways in which I think, like, you know, these seeds were laid a long time ago, right? They're like, if you've been paying attention, this isn't surprising, the things that are happening. And I don't know that, like, and maybe a lot of them need to happen for us to, like, right? I don't know. And so so I think that's what I was saying, even about like the anxiety feels confusing to me, because it's like, yeah, I do actually think we're living through the death of a nation, which doesn't necessarily mean like fire in the streets, right? But it does mean a kind of,
yeah, I think democracy is being challenged. I think things that were once protecting us feel like they're no longer there. And I feel like there's a vulnerability there, because the things that I don't want to even say like we take them for granted, because I think there's like judgment there. There's no judgment here. What I really am saying, like, these are things that we should be expecting from our government. And I'm not apologizing for that. And they're not coming through. So all of a sudden this layer of protection that was once there has been stripped away, and we're all fucking vulnerable, and it feels really vulnerable.
Yes, that's exactly it. Because the knowledge that these terrible things have happened between these persistent shootings and Roe v. Wade, what actually has made me feel so fucking awful personally is the knowledge and the witnessing of nothing fucking happening, right? I think that's where this like this idea of like the worst day for me in kind of processing everything about Roe v. Wade was when I read a news article about how like Biden's going to give a fucking speech, and that's all the Democratic Party is going to do, right? Because to me, that was the moment that was like, all of this was predictable, including, you know, the people I voted for doing fuck all. But it was the moment of like knowing like no one's coming to save us. No one is like your job is to protect us, and you're not doing it, and you're not going to do it,
and you're not even gonna pretend that you're gonna do it. That's
not
like,
even
it's
like
pretend. Before they used to at least pretend, and I think there's something so scary about, or like the Republicans, whatever, you know, what this idea of like they don't even give a fuck anymore. They don't even care about presenting it as if they're trying to do this because this is like better for the people. It's just blatant. It feels like blatant corruption and just a big fuck you.
Right. And I think like, you know, again, like with these shootings, and with, because those are the two things that I feel like have rocked my personal world the most, even as there's like, you know, pick your crises, but like both of these things being like, these are horrible acts of violence, and also the government, who is supposed to be our caretaker, or who's supposed to be like the body that keeps us safe, like actually has no fucking interest. And intellectually we can know that, but then watching it happen, it's not even the first time we've watched it happen, right? Like how many times have like Black and brown people have been like, hey, yep, police still shooting us, right? Like this isn't new.
Well, I mean, it's not new. And I think also, I think we are in a place of privilege in which it's not new, but also it's affecting us in ways that we weren't previously affected by other shit that was going on. And so like, I think I can be honest about that. Like it does feel like, I don't know, in some ways it's like, I don't know if say, I want to say like, is it a wake up call? I don't know if that's like the right language. But I want to say it's new and it's not new.
Yeah.
It does feel like, actually, I don't know. I think it's safe to say that it's new. Like even when I think about Ukraine, like Russia just going in and fucking attacking another European country, like that hasn't happened in my lifetime.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, I was saying to my husband, like after like I live in Massachusetts. I'm happy to be a mom. And if I were to get pregnant again, like it's not the plan, it's not the first choice. And also if I got pregnant again, like we would have 3 kids. Like we would sleep less. Right. So like I have no immediate like I'm not an immediate candidate to need abortion. And even if I did, I live in Massachusetts. So I will continue to have access to that. And also I woke up after Roe v. Wade again, which we knew was coming. And somehow my body, it felt less safe to be in my body. And I was saying to my husband, like, so that's just wild to just feel a level of unsafety that previously wasn't there, which also then has highlighted for me the way in which, like, I'm not fucking safe in my body, right? Like as a woman in the world, like what are all the ways in which like we don't go places or do things, or where there's just a million ways in which we are already actively unsafe and we just are used to it. And so there's also this layer for me of like remembering, like I thought of Nike, our guest recently, when she talked about you know, when the summer of the Black Lives Matter protests really like blossomed, and her having like the summer of rage, right? As a Black woman, just being like angry for all the ways in which like she's just had to like fucking live and breathe this bullshit. And I thought of her as I was sharing this with my husband, of like, that's to your point of like, it's new and it's not new. Like I have been unsafe in this body forever. And also now I am unsafe in a whole new way.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. And then I know there's a lot of places we need to get to, but I think, and honestly, if you go to therapy and like you come back with some insight, I would love to hear it, because I think where I often get stuck is like, okay, but now what? And like, what do we do? And I do think that the answer has something to do with like, I do think it comes down to like personal power and like not feeling helpless and feeling like, okay, so because let's I think it's helpful actually to be honest and to say, actually, I don't trust the government to like things that we like, I didn't trust the government before, and now I just feel like we're hitting new lows. And also we might be hitting even more new lows, you know what I mean? So, but it is, to me, the answer has something to do with like, well, I'm not going to rely on them. It's not up to them. It's up to what can I do? And also what can we do collectively? And I think that is part of the answer of like, I'm not waiting for the government. I want like the people to have like an uprising and do something, you know, like, oh yeah, but I don't, but that's what I would like. And also I have no idea really how to get there. And I do feel stuck sometimes in terms of like, I wish there was like a movement. And I believe in movements, and I believe, and I would want to participate in one, but I don't feel confident in starting one.
So I can't remember which guest said this, but we had a guest on our podcast, and she said something that to the effect of like, not everyone can be the organizer. Like that's not everyone's job, right? And like and also everyone has like,
everyone has a role, right?
Everyone has a role. And I've thought about that often since then, because I think I often felt the kind of guilt that like, well, I could organize, like I'm loud, I'm like passionate, I'm not organized.
Or this idea of like, oh, I need to take it all upon myself, and like there's guilt for me, this idea of like, oh, I want change, but I'm not doing that, so that must mean I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I love that the episode we released today as we're recording this was about fun, because I do feel like, and this came up in our Grief is Love episode too, like that actually like accessing joy. Like I made a new friend recently who like studies fascism, and like I'm like, timely that you're my new friend, beach mom. And like
I love that she studies fascism.
I know, she's fucking great. Yeah, I might actually invite her to be on the show. But she also said something at our like recent beach play date that was like, fascism like wants you to feel hopeless. Like that's like one of the ways in which it's designed.
That's like their greatest power.
And so like, it's funny, this isn't the thing that I thought I would say first, but let's go with it. I do feel like our joy is resistance. Like our because you know, you and I talked before about how like sometimes you feel like you need to suffer, like you can't access joy, you feel guilty having joy because there's so much suffering happening. But I do feel like our joy is our resistance, and that feels like actually really fucking potent to continue to nourish. That's like the first thing that comes to my mind. But I think the other thing that comes to my mind is like, I'm not an organizer. I want to participate in the things that people organize, but I think the space I can hold is what we do here, right? Is like, I can help you as I help myself remember that we are fucking powerful, that we are, you know, like when I talk about us being infinite, like I actually believe that, right? I actually, it's not always available to me, right? But like, I actually believe that we are insanely fucking potent and powerful. And like, I actually was doing a little like card pull reading in my Facebook group, and I ended up starting talking about Roe and started sobbing during this live, and like channeled this whole message that was like, the gist of it was, you came here to be giants who shake the earth with your footsteps. Okay, listeners, I was speaking about the revolution, and then I broke the internet. Which feels great. So yeah, basically I feel like on some level, even as this isn't fully available to me in all ways all the time, like there is some part of me that like fully and completely believes that like we have access to a kind of power that creates new experiences that we don't yet understand. And the way, right, that Audre Lorde quote of like, you can't tear down the master's house with the master's tools, like the way that we create something new is not to like get better at capitalism, right?
Outsmart them at their own game. You have to create a new game.
It's like, yeah, and I think that we do that, at least the space that I can hold. And I don't mean this to be like it's the only way, but it's like, this is what I know and what I can offer is we fall deeper and deeper and deeper into ourselves and act from that place, right? Take action from the kind of sovereign embodied place, because then our action is fueled with more power, more potency, more intent.
And I think, yeah, when I speak to some of this stuff, and you're also reminding me though of like, because I do think I have a longing to be like deeply connected to the movement, to like of a movement.
Yeah.
I think I want that. But, and I keep thinking because I'm not doing that, something's missing. Maybe something is missing, but you are reminding me like there is, like, just in you talking about it in the way that you are, it is a reminder of like, in the meantime, before I join a movement, there's something so powerful about acting as a free person, like, and acting as a powerful person in my own power. And basically, you know, the stuff that we talk about, and then just like committing to that even more, I think is powerful.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to forget that. I'm forgetting that, I guess, I'll point out, I'll speak to myself. I'm forgetting that because I remember, you know, I feel like this is a constant pattern for most people is like we remember and then we fall asleep, and we remember and then we
Mm-hmm.
forget. And so you're helping me remember again that is where our power lies, and what we can do from there, I think, is where like revolution can begin to happen in our own small ways, by the way, like, you know, in our own community, tending to our own gardens. But so yes.
And also in big ways, right?
Yeah.
Because
And
I
also
think yeah, and I don't have access to this all the time either, like by any means. It feels, I mean, I think that's the very thing that I'm grappling with, right? Is like this kind of like this this sense of like real despair and powerlessness and confusion and overwhelm running side by side with the part of me that's like, yeah, but you're a fucking giant who shakes the earth with her footsteps. So like how to,
yeah, I feel there's, I mean, they're probably connected, right? I wouldn't be surprised if I were to take a guess. There is something about diving into that fear and like being with that fear that will actually, and when you come out on the other side of that, there's a gift within that fear and that anxiety that I'm sure once you like go into and explore and discover, is going to be the very thing that's going to like ignite some other different kind of power or bring you back to a place of like such clarity that it's going to just
that's a really helpful
put a fire under your ass in a different way.
And I think I'm really glad you're saying that, because that's a real gift. And also I think that's a little taste of what I have around like the motherhood stuff, because it feels like so I have this tremendous anxiety, which I've spoken to, but also like I do also have this like ferocious like line in the sand protection, that like sense of power, and both are both of those are living inside of me, and yeah, and the confusion of this moment is like how to exist in that paradox.
Yes, exactly. And this is where I wanted to bring in this idea of like nothing is real, because it's very confusing. It's very confusing because you know, you and I talk about on this podcast this idea of like nothing is real, and that feels just fucked up to say in situations where it feels very, very real. And so I don't know, you said something earlier that like made me think about this, but this idea of like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything helpful to say on that, but I just want to also acknowledge that that's another paradox that I feel like I hold within myself that I don't know yet how to reconcile. And if you're a listener out there and you've got some like awesome opinions on this, we would love to hear from you. Or if you know someone who speaks on this really well, like please connect us, because this is a place I would love to explore more.
Okay, I'm glad you bring this up. And yes, to everything you just said, this was also part of this moment of clarity that I had. So I like did this live reading and I started sobbing, and I have had I've had this moment, I have had a kind of clarity come through around this nothing is real piece, to put it in quotes, which is, let me see if I can put this into words. We are so focused on trying to get ourselves to safety according to a game that is rigged against us being safe, right? The very, like, to look at capitalism specifically, like the very logic of capitalism is predicated on you are not safe, you will not be safe, you are like, you exist to be exploited, and also like we will continue to like pump you full of this idea that if you can like just keep hustling, you can get somewhere, right? So if we are fully locked into the experience that capitalism and money exist as we have been told that they exist, we can't fucking, like, you cannot win that game. The moment you are playing that game, you've lost it. Because the whole logic of the game,
it's unwinnable. Is the way that the game exists is that it's based, it's created on the fact that you can't win. It's being like at a casino in Vegas. It's like they succeed by building a system in which they know that you will not win. And that's how the only way that it can exist.
And also like to like extrapolate out a little bit for my theory nerds, Foucault is great because he speaks to like this decentralized, that there is no like they, as in there's not like a group of people at the top who are like, haha, I have all the power, but it's like the system itself is actually like this like self-perpetuating kind of hungry monster. And so, and everyone who's trapped in it is being exploited, right? Like everyone who's trapped in it, different levels of privilege, sure, but no one's actually like there isn't like a director at the top who's like the evil villain who's like,
right.
haha, I'm the bad guy and you can just defeat me, and then everything.
Like it's I would actually say, like, I feel like in like Buddhist circle, they would say like everyone is a victim. And actually it's like everyone pays a price. And I think that's where some people who are very deep in their practice can access parts of compassion that sometimes I have a very hard time accessing, but it's a compassion of being like, well, actually it's only when I can be compassionate for the people, for everyone in this, that like that I can change somehow, or that things can change, because we have to be able to see that we're all victims in this.
Yes.
Even the people that we perceive to be at the top.
And I think that's true. And also I don't have access to that compassion at this moment.
Yeah, totally. Exactly.
But I think I'm also just wanting to speak to the idea that like there isn't like, it's easy to pick a collection of bad guys like Trump, Elon Musk, like Vladimir Putin, right?
Oh, and I want to, by the way, I'm always sitting here with Adam being like, are there actually people at the top who, because it does seem that way sometimes, like I just like a group of, I don't know, but sometimes I just imagine that there are some people who out there who are just pure evil, who know exactly what they're doing and they just don't give a fuck.
Yes. I also just think that if they like died off tomorrow, like if all of them died off tomorrow, the system would just generate new ones, right? Because I think the like system, like the system we exist within, like is actually kind of just like creates these characters.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got on my Foucault tangent and now I forget where I was going. Oh, the nothing is real and capital. Okay, so you can't win the game, right? And so really the invitation is to the, and this feels really hard to speak to in language, in part because it's only partially embodied for me, right? But the invitation is actually to like drop all the way beneath the game, right? Like if you can embody fully that money isn't real the way we have been told that it is real, then you can interact with it in a new and different way, and it shows up for you differently, right? So it's not, it's really hard for me to put this into language, because this is like actually the thing that in this moment, like I am like trying to, I'm like actively trying to pull myself deeper into, but I think the promise of nothing is real, and the way it can be a tool in this moment is it can allow us to fall outside of the game, and then that's where we get to build something new. And so another way to think about it might just be like, it's never what you think it is.
Yes. I actually think you're doing a really good job explaining this.
Thanks.
How nothing is real is helpful. And even though you haven't said it in a specific way, I think what I'm sensing anyway is this idea of there's a whole nother possibility out there. I don't think we know what it is yet, but this is what I have oftentimes found in my own personal experiences, is that I get locked into thinking, okay, my options are A, B, and C, and that's all that I can see because I'm looking through this like very narrow lens. And I don't even know that I'm looking through a narrow lens. I think I have options A through Z. I think I have a gazillion fucking options. And I think, but still that's like so limited. And then something happens in me in which something shifts. And this is what I call like seeing clearly. And I don't know what it is. Sometimes the shift is just like, it could be a million things. I feel calmer, or I've moved through grief or something. And all of a sudden it's almost like A through Z is just like the big
volume
one. Yeah. And then there's like this whole you have access to like anything essentially. Like it's something, it is very matrixy in this way of like, it's something that you didn't even, that you didn't have access to. It wasn't even an image in your consciousness. And then all of a sudden, like now you're zoomed out and you're like, that was just volume 1. And now there's all these other options that are actually not even necessarily difficult. It's just that you're from a different vantage point.
Yeah.
And I feel like in my most like spiritually idealistic version of me, I think this is what people talk about when they talk about like the new earth, or what I think about when I think of the new earth is like, in a very idealized way, I think people can become spiritually awakened and then everyone can just start seeing things in a whole like more like wide lens perspective way, and then consciousness shifts, like the whole collective consciousness of the world shifts. I don't know if that's
yes, that's exactly what I believe to be true, is like we like fall deeper into ourselves and just automatically move differently. And automatically, right? It's not, this is the whole like should, is meaningless, right? It's like if you, every time you fall deeper into you, space shows up for you to just, you have more choices, right? Because that's the other thing about your story is like you also have to create the space to be able to see all the other volumes, right? And so I really do think like we fall deeper into ourselves and then just space shows up, and then we can move differently, or we speak in a way that has like a deeper resonance, and then that deeper resonance like affects other people versus when it's not actually embodied and there's like a kind of like tinny hollowness, and so it can't actually impact that many people. Like I think I really do believe that's the fucking work.
I have a big smile on my face right now because I feel very grateful to be in a space in which we can like shine a light on this possibility, because I think, okay, so I was going to say, I don't know if this is going to happen in our lifetime. And I think that's okay, because I'm very cognizant of the fact that 100 years, if I live to be 100, which is still a long ass time, is not a lot of times. I'm not, like what I wrote in my post is like, we're not the center of the universe. So like, I'm not attached to it having to happen in my lifetime. If it does, great. Even if it happened in 1,000 years, I think that'd be pretty cool that like people get to this sort of spiritual evolution. And I'd be happy with that. But I think it's cool that you and I can sit here and like, I think even this is revolutionary. There's something, and I want to be very cautious because I get very, self-conscious about sounding cocky or arrogant or whatever. But I think it's important to have conversations like that, because it is about every time we can come to a different possibility, a different way of doing things. It's like we're opening up another door, And I think that is helpful. And I think people need to, I know I need to remember, and I think people need to remember that so they know what's possible and they don't lose hope.
And I think, and I think two things. One is, again, the way in which the nothing is real, or put another way, like nothing is as you think it is, right? There's always these like other volumes that you can't see. The promise of that is like when you keep and then another way I'll say it is also just this idea of looking up, right? Like that's another phrase that kind of drops into me a lot. It's like, don't look down, like look up, meaning like keep your heart focused or tuned into the grandness of what is possible, rather and that doesn't even have to be like a specific vision, just so much the energy of like grandness and possibility, rather than the myopicness of like, how can I move my chess piece to the left or the right? And we'll all fall back into the chess game a million fucking times, right? And then I think and then the invitation is to like look back up, remember, it's not what we think it is. Remember that the like scope is not about, can I win? Can I move this fucking chess piece?
Right.
Because as soon as we're there, we've actually lost the game.
Yeah.
And so then we just step out of the game. And that feels like the practice.
Okay. So yeah, yes to all of that. I love this idea of like looking up. I would also say the invitation is to do what we talk about ad nauseum on the show, is to go where the pain is.
Yeah.
Right. So what I find really exciting about this conversation is you're talking about, oh yeah, that we all are gonna like forget. We're all gonna like that. This is the work. It's like, and we forget, and then we get back into the chess game, and we, you know, it's like that. Is it Hafiz, that poem about you, like you? There's a really great poem. Do you know the one about chess? And like you think that you still have like 1,000. Okay, can I pause it because I have to look for this poem, because it is like one of my favorite poems of all time. Hold on. It's Hafiz. It's called Tripping Over Joy. What is the difference between your experience of existence and that of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual path is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has just made a fantastic move. Whereas you, my dear, I am afraid you still think you have 1,000 serious moves. It's this idea of like, we get sucked into the chess game and we think we have these 1,000 serious moves. But I think this is where the danger of like extreme social injustice or like crazy political things happens, is that it pulls us into the chess game. Like we start thinking there's something toxic about the idea of like, we feel powerless. And then when we feel powerless, we start playing the chess game again. And then we forget. We think it's actually more productive to do these sort of like transactional things rather than the deeper work of like falling into ourselves.
Yeah.
And that benefits, I think, the very system that we're trying to get out of.
Yeah.
And I have a sneaking suspicion that, you know, this anxiety that you're feeling, this very justified anxiety that you're feeling as a mother, you know, as a woman in our world, that it's actually going to be like when you go into your anxiety and this fear going into where it hurts, that it'll open up something where you're essentially you are going to go deeper into yourself. And then you'll be like zoomed out, and all of a sudden volumes 1 through 1,000,000 will be once again available.
I'm not crying. Thank you. Thank you. That I really appreciate that. I'm tucking that into my heart. It will be helpful.
Yeah. I mean, that is what I'm experiencing in my own life as I'm going through, again, these muddy waters that I keep alluding to. Yeah, it's going into the scary places that is exactly where our liberation is. That's like a lesson that shows up again and again and again.
Yeah. And like, yeah, I went to say words, but then I just had a really strong felt sense of being held and of holding each other. So then I didn't have words, but I had that feeling. So I'm passing that on to you listeners, that you may also, it might drop into your heart too. You know, when you're like a little kid. One time I was in like, you know, I kind of call, I was in journey, which is what I use. I use that phrase, I think, a little more often than meditation, because I feel like, anyway, it doesn't matter. And I had this like very physical memory of being held in my grandmother's lap. Like I can't access it now, but in that moment, I could feel what it felt like to be a little kid curled up in my grandmother's lap. And I think about that sometimes when my kids are, you know, my son is so big and he comes and he sits in I mean, he's 5, but he wears like 7-year-old clothes. Yeah. Like, you know, he doesn't look 5, and he like climbs into my lap, and he asked me to carry him to bed, and I was like, I literally can't carry you up the stairs like that, you know. But like there's like just that way in which it's this sensation of like you are completely in that moment of being held, like you are so safe and you feel so like protected and held and secure. And maybe it's just because that's what I am longing for, but I think we are hungry for that memory. And I think, to go back to the thing we're talking about at the beginning of the show, like our deeper, wiser self or our higher self, they are holding us. They are also held, even as we, the us who is here in this body, might feel fucking freaked out and overwhelmed and confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is so beautiful, though. I think what you're reminding me of is that feeling of like, actually, when I'm really close to God, that I feel very held in that way.
Yeah.
And it's a remembrance of like, oh God, yeah, I don't know. I can't even, yeah, you're getting me in a place where like, yeah, I don't have language, but I do think that that is the truth. I know it doesn't seem like it, and I don't have access to it like a lot of the times, but I do think that is the truth, is that like that warmth that you were just explaining, that yes, I do think we're all longing for. I don't know. I do think that that is actually like, I don't know how to explain it. I do think that that is actually what is happening, that we are all held by source, by God. I don't think we always remember it. And it's tricky for me to say that even now in times because of like everything that's happening. But I actually think it's in times of like turmoil like this that it's even more important that I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I won't, I'm feeling this deeply and don't have the language for it, so I'm just going to stop right there.
The other thing that I'm thinking of too is like, I think we are all bigger than this, whether this is our individual circumstances, our individual anxieties or fears, our like this collective experience. Like, I really do think we are all bigger than this. And that we can, I don't know, we can trust in that, or we can I don't know, that gives me, when I can touch into that, it gives me comfort, because that bigness doesn't feel egoic. It just feels like the me who like remembers. It's like when you were saying in the beginning, like, oh, she is worried, or she has this concern, right? It's like all of these experiences, like, they are happening to us. They are big. They are perhaps messy, and like there is a lot, right? And that is meaningful because it's what you are experiencing, right? And also, this is the paradox, and also we are so much bigger than them.
And I think that's really helpful to remember, because it's actually not healthy, I think, to get so sucked into I know that the reason I like write the stuff that I write, or about like, 8 helpful things to remember when you're overwhelmed by the world, because I think it's really helpful to have perspective, because the most dangerous thing that happens is that you actually get really sucked into the heaviness and like the narrowness and the myopicness of all of these stories. And then again, you feel helpless. And that is like the most dangerous thing. Anything that can like pull us back and see the bigger picture and remember that the bigness at the same time, I think is like the only way that we're going to get, for me, the only way that I can get through it. Because the other way of getting really hyper focused on, on like the just hyper focused and feeling stuck, like I am completely ineffective that way.
Yeah.
Like I don't actually do anything. I can't contribute anything from that space.
And I think sometimes we also need to experience like I also think that place of feeling kind of stuck and like myopic and confused, like, is its own experience that is worthwhile. And sometimes we need, like, right, like sometimes there is a part, like, I don't know how to, I don't have good words for it, but I think that sometimes, like, not like we need to experience that as in like it's like a check box that you have to like can't pass go until you go through this phase, but like I think sometimes we are hungry to just be in our own fucking muck.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
muck could be fear and overwhelm, and like we have to kind of like roll around in it for a little bit before we can, like, that's part of the dance of the
That's
paradox.
so true. Yep. So true. Yep. I agree. Yeah. You can't avoid it, right? You know, like you don't, if you're trying to like avoid it completely and you don't want to go there and you're trying to bypass it, that's not it either.
Or if you
Yeah.
think like I'm bigger than this, so I shouldn't be feeling this way, right? Like if we
Yes.
use our bigness
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
beat ourselves up,
Yeah.
it's like you are bigger than this, and also you're fucking in it. Both are
Yep.
true.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I love having conversations like this about just the more zoomed out, the spirituality of it, the, you know, whatever conversation we just had, the possibilities, you know, I don't know what that was, but it's like medicine for my soul. And simultaneously, I also still feel a strong desire to want to be able to do something like grassroots, down to earth, tangible, be part of a movement. Like that still feels important to me too. And so I just want to call that because I think I believe both are true or both are helpful. And if I'm being honest, I think maybe I like this stuff about like being part of a movement because it makes me feel like I have control over something. It makes me feel like, okay, I'm taking action. And that is very soothing for my anxiety. Like at least we're doing something about it, right?
And also, I don't know about you, but every time I've ever been to a protest, at some point I cry because I'm so fucking moved by like I cry with this sense of like, holy fucking shit, all of us are here because we think that because we think that this could be better.
Yeah.
And it always overwhelms me in the most exquisite fucking way that like look at all these people who are here with their hilarious and heart-wrenching signs.
Yeah.
Because like we fucking believe that this gets to be different and better.
Yeah.
And so I also think like they can fuel each other, right? Like our action, like your story about like going for a walk gave you access to like your like more embodied self. And then our embodied self, when we act from that place of embodiment, then our actions have more resonance. And so I think there can be a really beautiful like feedback loop.
Yeah, like like a, what do you say, like a symbiotic relationship, is that?
Yeah.
But yeah, but I'm also putting a call out there to listeners, like if you know of something, if you know someone who come to this podcast, this idea of like, I don't know, I'm very into this idea because I don't know if you heard, like there was this thing going around on the internet about like doing a boycott. I think that's what it was. We're all basically the idea of not a walkout, but basically a boycott where women just like stopped working, or not just maybe anybody, which obviously the obvious difficulties of that is that, you know, that's very difficult if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you need money but people were also talking about like really organizing. And I think what I love about that is that because this is how it's always been. Whenever there's been some sort of like crazy fascist rule or something, if all the people join together, you could overrule the powers at play. But the people together are stronger than.
And I was just reading something today. There's like a delicious reminder that was like, you know, we talk about respectability politics of like, oh, like play nice, or like even like the way we talk about Martin Luther King as if he like only preached like, you
love,
know, love and like, you know, perfect action and nonviolence, whereas like you have like change happens because people make other people uncomfortable, right? Like change happens not because we're like, oh, please fascists, can we like actually maybe have sovereignty over our body again? Like if I ask nicely, you know, if I give Nancy Pelosi another $5.
Oh my God.
Like like change happens because we get big and fucking like intimidating, and in the sense that we remember that we're fucking giants who shake the earth with our footsteps. Like we act from that place of being fucking big, and I really do believe, like, yeah, that, like, we have to be like willing to make people fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah, and we have to be willing to go through discomfort ourselves.
Yeah.
And also, but that's a lot easier when you're doing that in communion with other people, right? Like, then it's like you said, you go to a protest and all of a sudden you feel empowered and you're like, I'm not alone. Well, these other people are, because, you know, we're social creatures. So like these other people are doing it. So like I can do it too. And there's power in numbers. And I mean, I don't know, but I don't know, but I guess history shows us the way, like that. Sorry, I have like lots of thoughts here, but which is why I think the government is very smart in like the division of the country. I feel like, you know, that's very smart on their part. The divisiveness that I think seems very intentional to me, is also very dangerous.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Divisiveness is very dangerous, and you know, not to get all like political science theory.
No, please, I love it.
But like, I think, so I've shared before, I used to be a huge politics junkie. I listened to like 5 fucking politics podcasts a week. It was like all I consumed. And then Trump got elected. Trump's inauguration and Desi's due date were like basically the same day. And my mental health required me to take a like reprieve. And it's been 5.5 years and I'm still in reprieve from that level of like kind of politics consumption.
Yeah. Which I think is good.
Yeah. I have no interest in going back.
Yeah.
But the complete inefficacy of the kind of Democratic Party in this moment is because systems, to go back to my point earlier, like systems are interested in sustaining the system, right? And so like actual liberalism, is that a word? Anyway, like what you and I want is to radically change and or dismantle the system and replace it with something better. And so the best shot we've got between fascist conservatives and Democrats is Democrats, right? But the democratic institution, the party in the institution, is invested in actually maintaining the status quo.
Yeah.
And so there's like
part of the problem because they're part of the system.
Exactly. And so there's like this inherent tension because like, you know, and so you get like these like pop-up voices like AOC or Bernie Sanders to like kind of satiate our hunger for dismantling the fucking system. And also, so they're actually, not to discredit them, but like they are also just characters who are part of the system. They're also just playing an inherent role within the system, even though I think individually they are also want to burn it fucking down, right? Like,
and you are blowing my mind with that piece because, you know, I definitely have AOC up on a pedestal and Bernie Sanders. I love
absolutely
them both,
and this is not to discredit them.
Oh no,
right?
no. But actually, can I just take a minute to sit with this? Because so what you're saying is, yeah, I hear you. Like they're doing a great job at what they're doing. They probably all want to like burn to shit too, but because it's almost, I don't want to say they're doing something harmful, but it's like it almost satiates us in a way enough for us to not maybe do the thing that we really need to do because they're playing the role of the person who's just like that voice that's needed, but it's still
which just satiates us. So we're like, oh, see, someone is speaking truth to power.
Oh God, you're like blowing my mind with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of like the court jester, right? Like the court jester was like the one character who could make fun of the king because like, and that actually shored up the king's power because it was like, oh, haha, we can all like laugh. Like the jester's like making us laugh at the expense of the king for a hot second. And that actually
because it's a delusion or an illusion of like an illusion of something. I don't know, what is that illusion?
It's like just think of like build up pressure, right? Like if you think of like they say like in like Southern California, right, there's like somewhat consistent earthquakes, but the more like a quote unquote dangerous earthquake is on other fault lines where nothing ever happens, because that pressure has been building and building and building and building, versus like AOC and Bernie Sanders are like these like tremors that actually release enough tension that it kind of can keep the system self-sustaining.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. Oh my God. Like that.
Which is why, like, this is the whole point of it. Like, the game, like, you cannot win the game. You cannot engage with the game and then think you can fucking win it, because the game is like, oh yeah, I gotta roll for you too.
Yeah. Yep. No, I mean, okay, so I hear you and I agree. And I think, yes. Playing devil's advocate, what about the idea that, yeah, no, never mind. No, devil's advocate. I think.
I mean, I'm here for it because I'm,
No, it's just this idea of like, sometimes I can't think of an example right now, but there's often the argument of like, do you need to be a part of the system to change the system? Like you need to.
I think that moment has passed.
Yeah.
That's my felt sense, is like, I think there may have been moments for that, and I think that moment has passed.
I think that's a good thing though, right?
Yeah, because I think that moment arguably was an illusion before.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And now it's like, okay, fascists are running the government. Yeah. So like there's no playing nice of like, there's no compromise, reasonable compromise, like I just think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And sorry, even as I say that, I think there is also a role, right? Like, I want AOC to keep doing what she's doing. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the paradox, right? Like, we need her, and also I think we dismantle the system from in a different way. I don't even know what the way is, right? Other than this, like, dropping into personal power and being giants shit, which is a little vague and intangible.
Yeah. I don't know. I also just, okay, we don't have enough time to like dissect all of this. I'm going to put this point here, and maybe, well, it'll come up some. I just wonder what the role of social media is in all of this, because I think it gives us the illusion of somehow being more connected, but also it's the same way in the system. It gives us an out to not actually like participate in a way. I don't know. I just have a feeling that somehow you would think social media would be a great way to mobilize people, but I also think it does a thing where like it's somehow working against us.
Yeah.
I can't exactly put my finger on why.
Oh, I think you're totally right. I would also love to have a guest expert. Maybe our show is just turning into Hello Universe, the Revolution. We come back from break and we just have,
that would be amazing.
Because I would love to have someone who's like a social media theorist come on and explain all the ways in which it's melting our brains.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like it. Yeah, because I think that like we need like I don't know. No, this thought isn't developed enough for me to go in there.
Well, anyway. I will just briefly share. So this past weekend, we went to visit family in Pennsylvania, and so we were visiting my husband's aunt, and like his whole extended family came. It was a super fun weekend.
So can I ask where in Pennsylvania? I'm just curious.
And Poconos. I don't know. They all those net town names kind of like blend together.
Yeah.
And they don't have service at their house, like not a lick of service. And we would get there at like 9:30 in the morning. They have a big pool, and so we were literally there from like 9:30 in the morning until bedtime with the kids. And so I had zero access to my phone for 4 days in a row. Oh my.
Yeah, probably.
I was like a new woman. I was like, oh, my problem is like all of my problems are just my fucking phone.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So I use my phone to like obviously like do my work and talk to my clients, but also like talk to you and talk to Liz and talk to my childhood best friends, or like
and look at great memes, which we all love. Yeah.
Oh my God, the memes. Yes. The memes. And so like yes, it's like the way in which I connect to all sorts of important people, and also at fucking like just on a deep, like on like a soul level, I felt space and clarity from not being on my phone for 4 days.
Girl, I fucking feel like this is my dilemma. And I think maybe everyone's dilemma, but I feel this deeply, as in, your phone, social media technology is something that that does a lot of perceived good. Like, I'm glad that you have a phone so that I can reach out to you, like, selfishly.
Yeah.
But I actually think, I think it's really bad for the soul. So it kind of just feels like catch 22. Like, we're kind of stuck, because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the alternative is.
Yeah. I have been, since it's only been a couple of days, but I just downloaded some like silly like
like blocker
books.
type, or
no, actually I like purposely downloaded some like very like easy, like just like fluffy books that are like kind of fun to read, kind of as a in part because my kids would go to bed in the hotel room and then I was just stuck in the dark at 6:30 at night. But then also I was like, oh, this is kind of a good replace your cigarettes with gum kind of maneuver. So I've been trying to like replace the urge to like doom scroll with like reading this like kind of silly insubstantial book. It can't, I've learned it can't be a serious book, because if I'm doom scrolling, it's because I want to be distracted. So it's got to be some like totally insignificant.
That sounds really nice, actually.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Just like reading some fluffy stuff.
Yeah. So that's my current attempt to.
I don't know.
My brother-in-law, meanwhile, I had this whole conversation with him. We were there. He has a flip phone.
Yep.
I fucking love him so much. He still has a flip phone, because he's like, I know what would happen. I don't want that to happen.
No, I know. I have I have a friend who still has a flip phone too, and it blows my mind. It's because the truth is like, that's what I want. And also I completely fear, like, I also don't think I could do it at this point. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know if I could do it. And that feels sad to me. And that's also, if I'm being honest, like, if this whole podcast is about like blowing shit up and playing a different game, like, that's a different, when I think about like a new world that I want to create for myself, it's some reality in which it's possible for me to not have to, I want to like live in the woods and like not have to be reliant on this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree. Oh, yes. I've been thinking a lot too. We had Leah Arsenault on the show a little while ago, just before she took her social media hiatus, which I think she's still in. We've been chatting a little bit. I got to check in and see if remember Leah Arsenault, our psychic hotline guest?
She's still doing it.
I think so. I haven't seen her on my feed. So, and last time I checked in, last time we were chatting, she was still doing it. But I have actually been toying with the idea that when we put the show on hiatus, that I will also take a social media break.
Yeah.
It feels very scary. And also, I'm hungry to do it. I am just afraid that I can't afford it. Right. Like, I'm afraid that the system requires me to keep performing and like being my little like bear in a tutu doing my dance.
Yeah.
And that if I don't keep playing that game, that particular game, then I will. Right. So this is my whole point, even as I'm saying like, oh, the objective is to like not play the game and to like fall beneath it or be bigger than it or whatever. Like, I am also actively completely caught up in it. And so that's what I was saying. Like, it's not embodied for me, but also I can feel that it is true.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And that's okay. Yes. That's the stance that I've been doing. Yes. For specifically a lot these past couple of weeks. And I don't have the answer. But I feel you. And I'm pretty sure the answer always has something to do with like, go to where your fear is. But like, but in order to do that, you have to have the skillfulness to like, take care of your nervous system so that you don't,
be held as you go to the scary place.
Yeah, so that you're not traumatizing yourself, or that you're not feeling like totally hysterical.
So you feel resourced as you're doing it. Yeah.
But changing to flip phone. Do you know who Aziz Ansari is? A comedian. Yeah, so he has a new-ish 1 hour like Netflix comedy special, but he like talks about going back to a flip phone. He did it. And I actually feel very, if I'm going to be honest, I just need to name this. I feel pathetic that I'm like, oh, it's such a big deal that he went to a flip phone, because in my mind, I want to be like, this is sad. This is sad that I feel like that is something that's so difficult, that feels so out of reach for me. And I know that's not helpful. I know that judgment of myself is not helpful.
You
but
literally
I also
run your business through social media, right? Like that is like on some level.
Yeah, it's your livelihood.
It's your livelihood, right? So it's not just, it is like integrated into the fabric of our culture, and also it's how you like put food on your table. So loving your judgment, but like,
I think I need to name it so that I can love it, but I definitely know it's there, that there's this idea like it shouldn't be that hard, but there's all this judgment there, like, oh, I'm such a sucker, I'm so tied into the matrix, like blah 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 blah.
I mean, we're all fucking tied into the matrix, like newsflash. If you think you're not tied into the matrix, you're probably wrong.
But I really don't want to be.
I know.
I really don't want to be.
Yeah. This is okay. I'm just like actively setting the intention for post summer break. Oh man, it's gonna be fucking fire when we come back from summer break. We're burning down the matrix. We are all getting flip phones, and we bring your flip phone to the revolution. That's the name of this episode.
That's it. I love it. I approve. Seriously, that's great.
Yeah. Oh,
Kyley. Well, I just love you so much, and I'm grateful for this space to be able just to even share ideas, to imagine a greater world.
I fucking love you.
Yeah,
truly. Should we do a round of joy?
Yeah, let's do joy.
Okay. Even though this episode's already super long, my joy is kind of long.
Oh, please. All right, let's dig in.
Okay. Okay. I had this moment this weekend that felt so validating of my parenting choices. So we went to this big extended family party, and it was so much fun. And there's like I said, my uncle-in-law has this huge pool and a hot tub and a trampoline and a swing set. I mean, it is like nirvana for a kid. Plus, there's tons of cousins that are like around my son and daughter's age, most of whom they don't know super well because they live far away and COVID, right? So like they have like one cousin that they know really well, but the rest were like kind of like new friend vibe. Basically, all my kids wanted to, plus all their like, anyway.
That's a big deal. That's like that's awesome that they got, because cousins are really important to me. It's so important to have family like it's the same age as so that's really cool.
And like everyone was just like, I love my husband and I both have big extended families, and like I really love my husband's family so much, as I do my own, and it was just so nice to be all together and just having fun. And my kids were so fucking happy, like just no one wanted to get out of the pool, like they were just having a blast.
Oh my god, it's giving me serious summer vibes.
It was like real summer vibes. Like 2 days in a row we had like giant water gun fights where like someone the kids built a like wall of like a barricade with pool floats. Like it was great. Anyway, one night, I think it was like the second day we were there, my son just was in the sun way too much, didn't have enough to drink, and just basically had a complete meltdown that lasted from like 5 until bedtime. Like he just like couldn't stop crying. He was whining about it. He just was like a fucking mess. And my husband and I both are very intentional about parenting from the place of like, your feelings are valid. Like we don't ever ask our kids to not feel the way that we might get exhausted. It's not always easy, and we're not always patient with them. We totally make missteps, but the place we always try to return to is like validating our kids' emotions, letting them feel what they feel, and then giving them tools to like move out of it, as opposed to the like, oh my fucking god, I can't believe you're whining. Like, can't you see that everyone's helping you? Like, even though we might want to feel that way, right?
Yeah.
And
wow,
so
that sounds like God's work right there.
it is not always easy, and we
Yeah.
are not always superstars at it, but it feels really good to have like to be in it together and have that. And sometimes we have to call each other on it, right? Sometimes we have to like say like, hey, you missed the mark there. Anyway, and so my son was just like, he like cried the whole car ride back. At one point, he was saying really melodramatic things, like he doesn't want to be part of our family anymore. Like, and he doesn't, like, he is like a kid who cries for 5 minutes and then it's over it and like moves on, right? Anyway, like getting him to go to sleep was like it was so exhausting. We were just kind of like tapping back and forth about who was a parent. Anyway, the next day, he finally went to sleep. The next day, it felt like a total validation of exactly that, because there was like one moment where he started to get all like whiny and cranky in the morning. I just leaned down and I was like, look, this is the moment where you get to choose the kind of day you're going to have. What do you want to focus on? How do you want to feel? Like, remember what it felt like yesterday? You know, what kind of a day do you want to have? And he just like sat with it and then just like chose that he wanted to focus on what was working rather than, right? Like I just watched him, like it landed because I wasn't like, he wasn't judged or shamed for being a fucking mess, right? And I watched him like really kind of powerfully choose that he was going to have a good day and that like there were lots of good things happening and he didn't need to want whatever the fucking thing he was going to whine about. And he had a great day. And then that night we got to have a conversation that was like talking about belonging, and we were like, we got to say to him like, you belong to us. Even when you're upset, even when you cry for 2 hours straight, even when you're angry, even when you're sad, like you belong. We will always, do you remember how much we like sat with you and loved you even when you were having a hard time? Like all of you belongs. And it just felt like it was a grueling 2 hours. And then also it felt so beautiful the next day to like witness it being exactly the kind of experience we want him to have.
Yeah, the payoff.
Yeah. And I love that. It brought me a tremendous amount of joy. So that's my joy.
That's beautiful.
And also I fucking love my husband and I have so much gratitude and joy to be in the trenches with him and like have him share this. You know, we don't always have the same technique, but it's like we have the same intention. And to have like, especially like a father modeling for his son, his very emotional son, like, yep, you can cry. Yep, you can be sad. Like, yep, I'm gonna be patient with your grief and your kind of and your antics. And so I love my family. That's my joy.
Well, I mean, I'm just taking that in, girl. I'm processing a lot because as I told you before, and I've actually felt this way. I think with a lot of my friends, I really enjoy watching my friends, mostly my female friends, like parent. I love watching them mother. I think it's really interesting. It's really beautiful. It's really like moving. I feel like I learn a lot from it. It sounds like a lot of fucking work, but also totally worth it. Like that example, case in point, like what you're talking about. And I don't know. It gives me hope, I think, for the future, that if like people can be so thoughtful, I don't know, maybe we'll be okay. Because I don't know, even though you and I have our trauma, we have our shit, I don't think we're as fucked up as our parents were. Or I'll speak for myself. I'll speak for myself, right? So like maybe by every generation it's getting better and better and better. I mean, there's always gonna be trauma, but I don't know. It gives me hope. It really does give me hope. Yeah. For future generations. And I like really need to think about that. I want to be conscientious if I've ever made my nephews feel like their feelings weren't valid. I'm gonna really think about that.
I mean, I totally also make Desi feel like his and Birdie, like, right, it's not a we're not batting 100%,
right? It's not like a perfectionist thing, but it's like this idea of like, yeah, that's really interesting. It's just being a parent, I think, probably makes you such a mindful, conscientious person in like different ways, that because you are literally raising a human, so you have to be thoughtful about these things.
I think yes, and it also you're tired and you're at your wit's end, and so you're also like reactionary a lot too. It's like
Yeah,
both are
yeah,
true, and I
yeah.
think that's why like my son was so over the top in a such an uncharacteristic way, even though it was very exhausting. It was also very like very clear to both of us that, like something else was going on, and so in some ways this isn't the case for everybody. For me, temper tantrums are actually sometimes easier
Yeah.
than like getting my son to get out of the fucking car
Yeah.
is oh my god.
Totally. Yes, yes. That makes a lot of sense. I get what you mean. Yes. Yep. That makes sense.
All
Okay,
right,
well, that's
Eva,
a
what's
beautiful
bringing you
joy. Thank
joy?
you for sharing that.
Yeah.
My joy is a little bit on the opposite end of the spectrum. I smoked weed for the first time in forever. I think I haven't. So for people who don't know, I used to be like pretty much a pothead. Like that was like my whole MO, like end of high school into college, like definitely just smoked, like very much part of my day, like had, you know, like loved fucking around with bongs and always was just looking for weed with my friends and then, you know, whatever. But now I'm just in a place where like, I think I'm too old for that shit because I get paranoid. It makes me fall asleep. I will take a hit of a joint and I will literally be okay, I need to go to bed now. So it's usually like not that fun. I still actually like am a big proponent of marijuana. I think it can be really great for like perspective change. It's fun, whatever. I wish I could smoke more, honestly, if I'm being honest, but it's just not for me. That being said, though, I also had a friend who like hadn't smoked in a long time. It was kind of a big deal. And she really, actually, no, it was the first time that she, you know, I won't go into I don't want to out her. Anyway, so then we came over, two giggly girls, just like blasting music on my radio in my backyard, having a little dance party, got super giggly, super silly. And I think the best part, oh my God. Okay, so I have two joys. So that was joy, but then I also made this like strawberry blackberry compote and put it over vanilla ice cream. Oh my God. I was like, I forgot how good weed makes food taste. It was like the most delicious thing I had ever had in my entire life. And I would just recommend, it's berry season, y'all. Just put some berries into a pot. You don't even need to add water. Do not add water. It's going to like water it down. Just put some sugar over your berries and let it simmer. And it's my favorite flavor profile. It's sweet and like tangy and tart. I love that flavor profile. So that's mixed in there too. But I think my favorite part about this experience is that being high reminded me that the world is a fucking bananas place where like comedic, like cartoonish, bizarre, surreal stuff is happening all the time. I just don't think we always see it because we've been like desensitized to it. But then when you're like stoned, you like see everything and you're like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And this is hilarious. And this is ridiculous. And this is like the shit that you see on the internet and on YouTube. And like humans are weird. And we're just doing weird shit all the time. And it was so funny to see how I think we take that for granted and we miss it because we're just desensitized to it and we just take it for it's just become the status quo. But when you're really paying attention, you're like, the world is, humans are just hilarious and bizarre and everything is like very surreal. So that was a fun experience and just a fun perspective switch.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
All right, friends. This was a wonderful, I'm so glad we got to leave on this note and have this rich conversation together before we go off for our summer break. And I just hope everyone out there, you take care of yourself, stay hydrated, make some berry compote, enjoy your fucking summer. Do all the summer things.
Yeah. And we love you and we'll see you in the fall.
Bye.